An Iowa professor gets an education in the Constitution when she publishes a syllabus that threatens to cancel and remove from class any student who disagrees with Black Lives Matter propaganda or who has a pro-life point of view. But pro-life students are simply arguing that black babies' lives matter too. Does this mean the professor must cancel herself? I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start in Iowa, where a professor recently warned incoming students that she would remove anyone caught criticizing Black Lives Matter, abortion, or the LGBTQ movement. And the genius of this, major shout out to Mike. Can we put the rock in? We got to give a clap for this because the Iowa State University Cyclones actually stood up to this little Nazi. They told her that A, that was unacceptable, B, she had to remove it, and they required her to study some constitutional material so she knew what the rights of her students were. Oh, Iowa, I don't know your fight song, Iowa State, but let Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson just bask in your awesomeness.
Have you been watching all his movies or something?
No, it's just a meme.
You just love him.
Just a meme.
Well, of course, she's a professor of English at Iowa State University. Her name is Chloe Clark. And originally what happened is she released her syllabus for her English 250 class. All right, so it's 200 level. It's going to be some freshmen, some sophomores probably.
Oh, and by the way,
more than likely.
I'm an English professor.
Oh, you are?
This is an English class?
Yes, supposedly.
Please explain to me why by your need to accept Black Lives Matter and to be pro-life, what does that have to do with what usually should go on in English classes?
We haven't even gotten there yet.
I know. Just makes
so
me
here, I can see that. So the syllabus was released, and of course, Young America's Foundation got a hold of it because of an anonymous source. And again, this is where I put the plug in for all of you college students out there, moms and dads of students in high schools. If there are syllabi that are released, you have them. You have copies of them. If they are outrageous, which most of them probably are, please send them our way. All you have to do is email it to us at askduke@fpeusa.org, and we'll take a look at it. So Chloe Clark released this syllabus, and on it, it said, giant warning. Any instances of othering that you participate in intentionally, she puts examples, racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, sorophobia, which I still looked up and I could not find what the meaning is, transphobia, classism, mocking of mental health issues, body shaming, etc. in class are grounds for dismissal from the classroom. The same goes for any papers or projects. You cannot choose any topic that takes at its base that one side doesn't deserve the same basic human rights as you do. Examples: no arguments against gay marriage, abortion, Black Lives Matter, etc. And then I take this seriously.
So she just othered people in the name of not othering people. So the very first person to other somebody in her class is her. She just made the argument that if you take any position that minimizes the rights of other positions, you have othered them and therefore I'm going to cancel you. So she just did it to pro-life people. She just did it to anti-Black Lives Matter people. She othered them. She plans to cancel them, even though she says no otherings or I'll cancel you.
Well, she's modeling. She's a great teacher because she's modeling for her students
intolerance and bigotry?
Yes.
This is what, Mom and Dad, this is English Professors 101. This is what they do. You think they're signing up for, do we know the title of this course, by the way?
English 250.
English 250. We don't know exactly what it is. This is, I can guarantee you, this is not your mom's literature course. This is not a study of great works of literature. This is one more 200 level general education course for sophomores and freshmen non-majors to indoctrinate them into the particular liberal preferences of this one glittering idiot of a professor.
Oh, well then. What happened then is, of course, the syllabus got out and everyone found it and everyone was rightfully saying this is stupid and shouldn't happen. So then the university actually did something. She has to change course. She got hauled in, basically. Have you been hauled in? What happens when you get hauled in?
I've been Title IX.
I've been Title IX.
Up the wazoo.
Well, okay, so after it went viral, they then the university itself, Iowa State University, voiced their disapproval of her behavior. They said the syllabus statement as written was inconsistent with the university's standards and its commitment to the First Amendment rights of students. After reviewing this issue with the faculty member, the syllabus has been corrected to ensure it is consistent with university policy. Moreover, the faculty member is being provided additional information regarding the First Amendment policies of the university.
Ah, the joy of it. Isn't it wonderful? I mean, when you actually have a university do the sane and sober thing. And I want to one little quibble with what you said, Katie. It's not everybody saw it wrong. I guarantee you there are activists all over that campus who can't imagine why their favorite teacher's being picked on. Why can't she cancel conservatives? Why can't she cancel pro-life people? I'll bet you there are a lot of English professors who are remarkably unhappy about that decision at Iowa State. But congratulations to Iowa State. This almost never happens. This is a happy ending in the secular, non-sexual way. This is wonderful.
I did a little research here quick for you.
Yes.
English 250, it's one of those gen ed requirement written courses. So it's just written, oral, visual, and electronic composition. It's just their comp class.
So it's a comp course.
It's a writing comp class.
Right. You sign up. Your kid's going to in the middle of the Corn Belt, right? Your kid's going to college in the middle of the Corn Belt. Not even Iowa, the University of Iowa, which would be the squishy state school. This is an ag school. Your kid's going to an ag school in the middle of the Corn Belt, and you would expect that this is a writing seminar, right? They're going to learn how to write. They're going to learn how to punctuate and capitalize and ellipsize. But no, as we've said to you many times on the Dr. Duke program, college writing is now about, as we saw yesterday's show, college writing is about black ebonics. It's about getting rid of these white supremacist rules like subject-verb agreement and comma usage, all those things that you used to learn when, you sat down and write written language. It's all about sociology now. It's all about professors getting to tell you what their politics are, force you to write papers along the lines of their vision. It's pretty stupid, even in the Corn Belt, but Iowa State deserves a shout out.
Well, from Iowa all the way over to the East Coast to New Jersey, where we have the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education, FIRE. We've talked about them many a time. They stand up for free speech on campuses, and they sent Stockton University a letter expressing concern that the university may have disciplined a student after he used a photo of President Donald Trump as his Zoom background, because, we're all on Zoom now in the virtual world, as in one of his online courses. So because he had President Trump in the background, the university took action. And according to FIRE's letter, Stockton University doctoral student Robert Dalida utilized the Trump background during a class held via Zoom back in July. And there was no evidence that the Zoom background affected classroom order or anything like that. But he's a doctoral student. He's a little bit older of a gentleman. And apparently everyone got outraged.
Unlike Iowa State, you've got Stockton University, which is in New Jersey, which I guess would be the Goomba Belt, right? What, me? Forget about it.
Okay.
I guess it's the Goomba Belt. And they do things differently there, as you can imagine. We're going to do a story next week to preview a little bit for you of a school that actually is trying to get a couple of professors fired because those professors went to a pro-police rally on their own time, in their own without being on school time, without being representatives of the university. They went to a pro-police rally. These kids found out about it, and they're hectoring the administration to fire them. And Stockton is one of these types of schools. Matter of fact, that's a Northeast school, too, when you see the story. What they're doing here is ridiculous. I don't know how you parse this any other way. The picture of Donald Trump is enough to actually drive otherwise careful university administrators to do really stupid things. And it's really great. FIRE, if you don't know anything about FIRE, F-I-R-E, check them out. They're actually run by, they're not a right-wing conservative organization. At least one of the founders, of the two founders, is really quite liberal. These are liberal, generally speaking, or moderate people who recognize that if we don't guarantee speech to everybody, including conservatives, no one will have free speech. So they've done the Lord's work for a lot of years now.
And according to Dalida, he said that I am done with the leftist agenda of BLM and the white self-haters. I have seen it in action in my doctoral classes at Stockton and the general media. I'm not backing down. If we can't get past this, okay, I'm ready to fight to the death for our country and against those that want to take it down. And then in a separate Facebook post, he actually said that his initial post was an outpouring from my heart and meant to be patriotic. not to confuse, because everyone would probably read that and say he's some right-wing, nut job, white supremacist, so on and so forth, because that's what they do.
Just wanting to defend your country's values, really?
Have you watched the media lately?
This
is exactly what they do.
This is the slippery slope we've talked about for a long time. Do you see how far down Alice's rabbit hole we are already in this idea that a picture of Donald Trump having a little kid chew his Pop-Tart in the shape of a gun. All of this stuff is getting really Orwellian, and it's coming down exclusively on the conservatives and the moderate Democrats. There's, as I said yesterday, there's nothing too liberal you can do. There's nothing too outrageously leftist. You've already got an example of that from today's first story. Nothing outrageously leftist. You can't really get away with it. I mean, again, this professor that was called in Iowa, I mean, nothing happened to her other than she had to change this. And it would be amusing. I'd pay some money to see exactly what she was supposed to study on the Constitution. Wouldn't you love to see those documents, what they actually handed her? But here you have a situation. And the other thing about this guy, he's not your typical 20-year-old. Yeah. He's 58 years old, right? He's a much older man pursuing a PhD. So he's at least got a lifetime of experience that allowed him to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, I'm not going to take this from you guys. Whereas the average 20-year-old in this situation rolls over like an otter on LSD.
And originally, so what happened was the university actually said during a pretrial hearing that he could have faced suspension, a $50 fine.
$50 fine.
He's probably like, okay, hold
$50.
on. Unlike the college kid who has who knows what in their wallet, he would have been like, here you go. Anyway, a suspension, a $50 fine, community service project, social justice workshop, and decision-making workshop. I think the social justice workshop would have been the worst punishment.
That would have
been
the worst part of it. Yeah.
If he would be found to be in violation of the student code. But update, basically, they kind of dropped the whole thing, at least the potential of the charges with him, so he won't get punished. But he said he's not sure if he's going to actually continue to pursue his doctoral degree now.
Right. At age 58, unless you want to be a teacher, a PhD doesn't really carry that much weight. So I would hope, walk away from it. You don't give these idiots one more dollar of your money. But again, who gave the universities the right to mandate that anybody comes to their college will learn your particular definition of social justice? There's also, it's one of those words, social justice, like liberty, like pornography, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. No two people see that thing alike. And yet you've decided that social justice means radical adherence to a very small set of extreme leftist principles. What gives you the right, especially at public universities that are funded and sponsored by public money, what gives you the right to tell kids it's not enough that you're going to get a marginal education here in math and writing and English and science? We're also going to make sure that if you step out of line, the crooked line we've drawn that has no basis in educational pedagogy, the crooked line we got, you step over that line, we're going to put you through training. We're going to reorient your head to be the kind of person we at the university insist you be. It is shameful. It is not right. I'm not even sure it's constitutional, especially when public funds is going to this. And so it's time that just walk away, Mr. DeLita. That stupid piece of paper, trust me, I know PhDs. I am a PhD. The idea that a PhD confers anything like intelligence is not true.
Now that we have back to school all across this great nation, naturally, parents are dishing out tens of thousands of dollars to hire basically outside tutors, these learning pods, so that their kids can get some sort of an education. And it's happening mostly in New York, where parents are paying up to $70,000, which is insane, just to have their kids, so they could hire these private educators. So these private educators will watch over their kids in these little learning pods of 3 to 10 kids or whatnot, $70,000. And that's not just what they're paying. They're paying that in addition to already paying how many tens of thousands for the private education that they already are. It's insane.
If you're paying $70K for pod learning, that means you're in one of the top 10% brackets there, which means you're already paying huge money to New York just to run that city, on top of the money you paid for the private school, on top of the money you're paying in taxes.
Insane.
You're paying $70,000 for these pods. So good for them. I mean, that's the privilege of the rich. In this country, everybody can be rich, social justice idiots. Everyone in America can get rich. If you don't believe me, look at your half-wit athletes with their multi-million, $100 million. Look at the LeBron Jameses of the world. right? Who barely graduated high school and is now some guru because he's paid $100+ million a year to dribble a basketball. Everybody has the ability to make money. Everybody has the ability somehow to be in the 1%, regardless of your race, your class, your gender, your sexuality, all of that stuff. And so if rich people in New York want to spend $70,000 on pod learning, good for them. If rich people want to spend $70,000 having their kids swim with pods of whales as their education, more power to them. The reality here is that this is the failure of New York State. This is the unwillingness of New York City, that moronic governor and that complete waste of space mayor de Blasio. New York, I get it. Not everybody in New York is responsible for what Manhattan does. I get it. But upstate New York, you got to do something more than just vote and forget about it. You've got to engage in peaceful civic activism against what's going on, what's being controlled from by New York City. The whole rest of the state does not seem to have these problems, this kind of craziness. I don't know. It's the same thing in Illinois. You take Chicago out of Illinois, it's a red farming state. There have got to be peaceful ways that the rest of us in these states can make inroads. I guess, however, in this culture we live in, you only get paid attention to if you burn things down, riot, loot, poop on cop cars. Maybe, I'm not suggesting that our side does that because our side wouldn't. But remember we had the Tea Party? The Tea Party was actually kind of making some inroads until the left actually called it what? Racist, neo-Nazi, all the things that Antifa is. The Tea Party, full of 50-year-old blue hairs, taking one day a week off work to go protest peacefully in parks and then leave the parks cleaner than they found them. The left turned that into Antifa, while Antifa is just now we're supposed to believe, just a Tea Party.
Climbing out of Alice's rabbit hole there, Christopher Rim is the one who founded this education and college consulting firm called Command Education. Now, this man is a genius, simply because all he did was he was in his college dorm. Of course, he went to Yale, so, okay. But he created this company back in college, and he got his friends to work for him, and now there are parents paying $70,000, and it's not for the entire school year. It's for just 30 weeks of the school year. So what he actually charges $3,500 per week per student, but there's a flat rate of $70K if you want to do the whole thing. And of course, these parents are going to do the whole thing. So this is why I'm like sad about it. Is he's 25 years old. He has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Yale, and he started it back in 2015. Again, in his dorm room. And all of his tutors are under the age of 30, and they're all Ivy League educated. So I'm screwed.
Is he a genius? Is he
smart.
Or is
smart
he a
business.
grifter?
Like,
I mean,
hey,
you could be both, right? He's a genius grifter.
Not?
The fact is that if rich New Yorkers want to pay this,
that's why he's genius.
Hint, rich New Yorkers, you could get your kids that education for 1/10 of the price if you knew how to do it. All right, this is what homeschool moms are giving their kids every year. It's not costing them anything. I get it. You got the money, you can spend it, and there's always somebody willing to take it from you. But this is not some genius business idea. This is just, let's cater to those who are too lazy to find an easier way.
And that's genius.
I guess so.
It's time for some real education. Harrison Bergeron is a dystopian science fiction short story written by Kurt Vonnegut, first published in October 1961. Originally published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, the story was republished in the author's Welcome to the Monkey House collection in 1968. The story received the 2019 Hall of Fame Award from the Libertarian Futurist Society.
Yeah, and Kurt Vonnegut, you have to understand, in this instant classic, is no man of the right. He was a redoubtable, predictable liberal in many of his opinions. Smarter than most. I mean, I got to give him credit for that. He was a well-written, well-spoken, reflexive progressive. I guess you'd call him a progressive. Maybe actually you would not. You'd call him a no one can write this and be a progressive. He must have been what we would call a traditional liberal. I think an old-fashioned Democrat who believed in protecting the values of America, free speech, and everything else. 1961 he wrote this. And so it's this fictional story. I think it's one of the Some people have nominated, it's won an award for the greatest short story I've ever written. There are a couple other options I'd throw out there, but that's exactly right. The story is set in the year 2081, where everybody is finally equal, right? It's the idea that the 211th, 12th, and 13th Amendments of the Constitution had finally been passed that dictated that all Americans are fully equal and not allowed to be smarter, better looking, or more physically able than anybody else. Smarter, better looking, or more physically able. How did he know? How did he know that I was less than a decade? The one he was hoping for was coming. How did he know that? But seriously, though, go back to the actual quote. What a genius way to this was written in 1961. That's what, 59 years ago. You literally, everything he says here, if you read between the lines, is what's happening now. The year was 2081, and everybody was finally equal. They weren't only equal before God and the law. They were equal every which way. Nobody was smarter than anybody else. Nobody was better looking than anybody else. No one was stronger or quicker than anybody else. All this equality was due to the 211th, 12th, and 13th Amendments to the Constitution and to the unceasing vigilance of agents of the United States Handicapper General. Oh, what a great idea. That the United States now has a Handicapper General. Handicaps, which used to be seen as bad things, things that made it harder for you to succeed. Well, now we've turned handicaps into wannabes, right? The Handicapper General, his job is to go around, and if you're a little taller than anybody else, find ways to shorten you up. If you're a little bit smarter than anybody else, find ways to make you a little stupider, right? The Handicap General. Can we just call the Handicap General? Can we just call it Hillary Clinton? Would she have not been? She's a combination of Nurse Ratched and the Handicapper General. Would not she be the perfect one to go around and cut you down to size, right? Make one size fits all little people there.
One size fits all little people
Little
there?
people. Well, they can be big people.
Equal people.
Well, but see, it's easier to make big people little people. How do you make little people big people? You'd have to stretch them on the rack, right?
Hey, didn't you see that episode of the Andy Griffith Show when Barney
did it?
Stretches?
Barney
Great episode.
Did manage to do that, but
so it's possible.
You go back to Kurt Vonnegut here. You know, this is a guy who wrote also, among other things, he wrote Slaughterhouse-Five, which is absolutely wonderful. All animals are equal. Some animals are just more equal than others, right? No, that's
Orwell.
That's Orwell. Yeah, it's in the same vein, right? It's in the same.
Well,
that's
if you look
Animal
at
Farm.
some of the greatest authors that we have, American English authors, are
Dystopians.
the dystopians,
Yes, right.
and everyone thinks that Hunger Games. Oh my gosh, it's this new genre, and all this has been done before many a time. This is just being rehashed and rehashed.
Really, if you look at the history of 20th century literature, it's always warning against left-wing issues.
What?
Remember One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was warning us against too much faith in scientism, right?
We'll just do a whole segment on
we could
dystopians.
We could just do
classic
dystopians. That's an idea. Maybe we'll
ding,
just
ding,
need
ding.
to do an entire seminar, a private lecture here on American dystopian literature.
All right, as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Parler. And if you have a question for us, please visit freedomproject.com/AskDuke. Now we're going to wrap things up with the fun fact of the day. Kurt Vonnegut gave grades to all of his books. He was like his own teacher. He gave his book Cat's Cradle and Slaughterhouse-Five A+, but Happy Birthday Wanda June and Slapstick got Ds. He also, this is a fun fact, he loved the show Cheers, and he said that he would rather have written that than any of his books. So basically he gave Cheers an A++.
Well, and it's funny, he's got good taste too, because the two books he gave Ds to, no one's ever heard of.
Correct.
And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Duke, she's Katie, and until next time, stay educated, my friends.